What's up, you guys? Check out this absolutely insane snow we got. So, anyways, this video is about wondering what it would have been like to have been alive in the 80s and going through intervals of time where I've wanted to be a part of that generation so bad. I guess you could say like the baby boomers, because being a teenager in the 80s would have been a prime time. And this video is inspired by, I just got back from Knoxville. Actually, I had to go to Knoxville right before the winter storm. And I went to a video store in Knoxville and I picked up, my brother like basically forced me to go into this giant video store in Knoxville. And when I was there, I grabbed this. I couldn't help myself. It's four Friday the 13th movies in one. It's part 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Friday the 13th. The ones from the 80s. I think the first one is from like 1979. But anyways, I'm a huge fan of like 80s horror movies, especially like the Michael Myers movies, the first 5 of those and the first 4 of these. So I grabbed this, and there's something about like the vibe of these movies. You know, I just love watching people get murdered. And I'm just kidding. It's all about like the atmosphere and like the way that people looked back then, and the way that just like you can just tell like it would have been the shit to have been alive back then. And I really appreciate, you know, like getting a little taste of what normal like life was like before the cell phones and everything took over. But in this one specifically, I watched this one last night, the fourth one with Corey Feldman, because I actually met Corey Feldman last year. I'll put a picture of that right here. So anyways, it was pretty cool meeting him. I was like, wow, I get to meet this 80s icon, you know, cause I would say my second most like favorite music comes from the 80s. I definitely am more of like a 70s music fan. You know, Fleetwood Mac, Grateful Dead, Zeppelin, and all that. Pink Floyd, The Wall is like probably, in my opinion, the greatest album ever made. And like, I know there's some cringe motherfuckers out there that are like, Pink Floyd shirts Walmart, but man, dude, The Wall is amazing. I always love The Wall. And the 80s had some amazing music too, but it's more just like kind of the vibe that you get when you watch like an 80s horror movie or something, and like the way that people interact with each other. You can tell that like the warped minds that came from the internet age that we've been raised in hadn't happened yet. You know, there's this one page on like YouTube. It's called Moon. You might have heard of this channel, and he posted this video recently, and the thumbnail picture was like a picture of like a girl in the 80s and a picture of a girl in 2023. And like it's like such, both pictures are such a good representation of what like women were like in the 80s and the women now. It's like in one picture, the girl's like long hair. She just looks like an all around like great person. And the other one is just a girl with like a choker and like a septum piercing and like looks like honestly a fuckwad. So like it's just so crazy. Like I really appreciate, so I'm 30 years old. I was born in 1993, and I really appreciate that the cell phone takeover and everything didn't really start until around the last year I was in high school. I graduated high school in 2012. And around 2012 was when I started noticing most people were starting to use the smartphones a lot. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong though. Like I think the smartphones are an absolutely incredible technology and advancement. And like you can get on YouTube and you can learn about whatever in the world you want. It's like you have every library on the face of the earth in like a box in your phone. They're incredible pieces of technology, but at the same time, it's what it's done to our brains when it comes to like Instagram and TikTok. You know, I go on TikTok and make these videos for everyone's amusement, but like, dude, that app, man, I regret sometimes going through there and just watching some of those videos. Snapchat, even Facebook, and all that. It's just like, it's so insane how like this simple thing that I'm looking at right now, because I'm recording this on a cell phone, this simple piece of technology changed the world like so much. It's so fucking crazy, dude. Like, can you imagine like right now, like it's almost like a lot of the world can be like this, but mainly like the West, America specifically. It's like we've all gotten to a point where we all don't rely on each other at all anymore. Like, do you not find yourself, if you live in the West, do you not find yourself alone almost like all the time? Almost all your friends come from like high school or maybe college, or like any friends you made before like age 25 are the ones that are going to last. It's like so crazy how we don't have to depend on each other anymore. And it's not natural, man. It wasn't like this back in like the 80s when I watched these like movies and whatnot. I just watch how they interact with each other and what the world looked like back then, and I'm just like, man, like that would have been a prime time to have been around right there. I bet like I'd be sitting with a big friend group, probably married, probably have a kid or two. Not that I want that these days. Times are different now. But like of course there's like a huge biological side of every man to be like, "Oh yeah, I want kids and stuff." But I mean, today in 2024, don't want that, but it's so crazy to see how we've like some people might think, especially like women that are more like feminists might think we've progressed, but we're actually like going against the order of like the natural order of things these days. And like we're all winding up like with no sense of community, dude. Like the only sense of community that I get is when I go out there in that astronaut suit and talk to people when it's not so cold outside, you know what I mean? Or if had the time for a gym membership or to join some kind of club. There's communities out there, but it's not like it used to be in years like the 1980s, even the 90s. I mean, I was kind of a part of the 90s, Nirvana. I fucking hate Nirvana, honestly. Like, but like music that came before then, the era and everything, you can tell that like it was so natural. Can you imagine? Like, it's so hard to like, if you're my age, 30 or younger, to really remember a time where your whole life wasn't spent on like a phone on the internet. And I'm really appreciate that my main childhood days was in like 2005, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and some of 10 were like my prime days of being like a teenager and stuff, and I remember going out in like the neighborhood I've lived at in the same neighborhood since 2005. But I live in a different house than where the house I grew up in is about a mile that way. Like I can remember like getting out and just fucking like connecting with so many different friend groups in the neighborhood, so many different families. The parents would go talk to each other and all this stuff. Once again, I'm talking about this. These are memories from 2005 to 2009 and 10. And like, dude, I mean, I know I've gotten older and like adult men don't just like go like run around the neighborhood and jump on trampolines and stuff. But like still though, man, I know everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's not like that anymore. Neighbors don't know each other. I have seen with my eyes, my neighbor outside probably over like 1,000 times in the last like, I don't know, 10 years. I have literally talked to him like one time. Like, can you imagine a world that would have been like that before the cell phones or the way that things are now? You have a neighbor that you haven't even talked to but one time in the last like 10 years. It's kind of like shows where we're at. And I try to put myself out there. I try to find ways to like put myself out there in the world that we have right now. And it's just so hard. And it's no wonder that like men make videos on the internet about like feeling like lonely, or people making these like male loneliness epidemic videos. Like it's very hard to find ways to put yourself out there. If you're living in the USA, you have to like find some kind of hobby or activity that like-minded individuals like, for you to really put yourself out there. As far as getting a girlfriend goes, that's not something that comes very easily for most men these days either. It's like we're living the complete opposite, and it just becomes like, as we get further and further into the future, the life in the USA becomes more secluded, more isolated, not much feelings of purpose. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so crazy when you go back and you watch these videos from like these movies from the 80s and the 70s, even from the 70s. I'm a huge John Belushi fan too. I watch Animal House or the Blues Brothers here and there. And like when you watch those movies, like Animal House, what college must have been like back then. I know it wasn't like a complete depiction of what Animal House is, but just that movie and watching like the Blues Brothers in Chicago and everything, and just thinking of how much healthier the society was back then. Just thinking about how crazy it is that we are like, we have like a mentally unhealthy society now for the most part. It's like you can go on the internet on any like on anything, man, on any YouTube page, especially Facebook. Like, I live in Nashville. This is an example. I live in Nashville, and I get all the time on my Facebook wall these posts about things that are happening in Nashville. Like, Nashville is a very big time growing city currently. It's so crazy. As somebody that's lived in Nashville since like 1997, like, I can remember what downtown looked like. I spent a lot of time in downtown Nashville in 2006, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. I was always downtown. We used to have these two venues downtown that hosted like death metal bands and hardcore bands. I was really into that when I was a kid. And like, when you go to like where these venues used to be and you look at Nashville, it's like, it looks so much different. It's so insane how far like this city has like come. So with this growing city, we constantly have so many events, new events like concerts, hockey games for the Nashville Predators, whatever it may be. Taylor Swift came from here. So like, it's just like, we have so much stuff popping off, and on Facebook, they're constantly posting like advertisements for events and stuff. You go to every single post and it is just full of fucking negativity, dude. It's the same on YouTube. Is a lot better than Facebook and other social media platforms, but like, negativity is so promoted in our society. And there's a huge part of when you're young, like when I was young, there was a part of me that really wanted to be like negative. There was a part of me that got a sick satisfaction off of being negative or feeling depressed. As you get older, as I've got older at least, I've found that I don't get good feelings from being depressed or sad or upset anymore. It's not like appealing to me anymore. And I feel like that might be a part of just maturing, but it's like, negativity is so promoted in our society today. It's like mandatory for you to be negative. If you're a man, if you're an American man, it's like, it's mandatory for you to hate other American men. It's very hard to make new friends out here. It's very hard to find people that have good intentions. You know what I mean? It's just crazy where the society is going. It's crazy how unhealthy it is. And when I go back and I watch Friday the 13th, part 4 and 3, when people were getting murdered by Jason, no, I'm just kidding. Like, when you just look at, like, obviously it's just a movie, but I'm just saying the way that people were and dressed and everything, it's just so crazy, like, to think of how amazing it would have been to be alive back then. Could you imagine, like, that was like the prime time that was the peak of Western society, in my opinion, was around like the 70s and 80s. And like, the music, the movies coming out and everything would have been absolutely amazing to have been a part of. Would have been amazing to have been a part of that era of life. Cause it's like, that is definitely, in my opinion, where life in the USA peaked. And, there's ways to put yourself out here. There's ways to like meet new people and like get a community started and stuff. But it's hard when you have a lot of stuff you're working on. It's hard to find the time for gym memberships, for whatever extracurricular activities you want to get into and whatnot, so it's not normal for life to be as isolating as it is in the USA. This isn't normal. And I wonder when the day will come when we will break out of this, because it has to come, man. There will be a day, like, most men these days have nothing to live for, man. Like, I find in my life, like, little ways to be happy and to keep myself sane and to like stay neutral, not fall into any like depression loops, not fall into anything like any negative thinking like that. But like, there will come a day, you could argue it's already here. There will come a day where like the majority of men feel so unmotivated, are so like, have no reason to get up and like live because there's nothing to live for, like, there will come a day where shit will hit the fan, man. I'm not like a doomsday prepper, I'm a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. Usually when people call someone a conspiracy theorist in 2024, it just means like somebody speaking the truth and they can't handle it. But it's like, there will come a day, it's inevitable in all societies, where this society will fall. Will it be in our lifetimes? I don't think so, but could it be? If I were to have a child right now, as an age 30-year-old man, if I were to have a child right now, could it happen in that child's lifetime? It could happen, man. You can tell that this society is headed towards the wrong direction. You can tell that we are living very unnatural. You can tell that people are living their lives on smartphones. It's amazing that I can communicate with an audience of people through this device, but it's like, just go on YouTube and watch it's like everybody is communicating with their cell phone these days. You know what I mean? It's like community and friend groups are just kind of like on the decline, especially as you get older. I think that there's a big part of that being kind of normal as you get older. There's kind of like you kind of wind up more alone as you get older, which is pretty depressing. And there's a part of that that you must learn to like endure being alone and especially single and all that these days. I refuse to be the majority boomers that just like absolutely are trading up for trying to find their next great girlfriend and whatnot till all the way till they're dead and they can never find a girl to replace their ex-wife with or whatnot. So I endure like the loneliness, the isolation that comes with being in the USA. Don't get me wrong, I got friend groups and everything, but like there's just times where like I'm snowed into my house right now. Yeah, right now I'd say like I have zero options to go do anything with people. But there are days where you find yourself, there are even a whole 2 to 3 days at times where I find that I have nobody to like interact with or spend some time with or something. Cause like, yeah, I still got my friend groups, but a lot of them are like either married now or they're divorced or they like are going to have kids or they have kids and whatnot. And like, great, that's their decision. But like over time, it's kind of like, you have to like as you get older realize that you're probably gonna more people are going to like drop out of your life. The likelihood of you being divorced is very high. What if you have a kid and he's a little shit and he ends up hating your guts? And these things happen to a lot of people. You become more like alone as you get older and you have to endure that isolation, but it's something you can't spend all your time in. You got to find a way to put yourself out there and find a community to be a part of, or you'll go fucking insane. You know what I mean? So I don't mean to get too off topic, but this is kind of like reflecting on the 70s and 80s mainly the 80s, and how incredible it would have been to been around back then and to have like a full community and a healthy minded society, been a part of that. And sometimes I avoid even watching movies from this era because it's a little depressing to just look at it and be like, damn, like what the fuck are we doing now in 2024? So anyways, this is a little video about, I wonder what life in the 80s would have been like. And that's about it. Earth's Edge AD. Thank you for watching.